Hey, welcome back to another episode of Noped Adventures. And I wanted to give a shout out to a couple people. Cousin Ted. I was talking with Cousin Ted, who lives about an hour and 15 minutes north of me. Cousin Ted is known for making cars go fast, and he wants to help me make two-stroke mopeds go fast. So we're going to have Cousin Ted down. He's going to show me a thing or two. And then I wanted to give a shout out to the Bone Crusher. Man, I haven't heard from the Bone Crusher in a while. And this video is dedicated to you, brother, because it's about the Urban Express. And what you got in front of you is an Urban Express engine with transmission and rear tire. Because there's another engine currently on the Urban Express. As I was telling the Kentucky Yankee, I am up to my neck in engines and happy for it because engines take up little space and they're just a blast to have around and work on. As a matter of fact, if we edge over this way, you can see two Express engines on the shelf ready to go. But back to the Urban Express engine. Colby T contacted me with a few questions. Colby T from Washington. Wow, that's East Wenatchee, Washington. If I mess that up, Colby T, I'm sorry, man. You're going to have to help me with that one. That's a new one on me. East Wenatchee, Washington. That's a ways out, man. You're 3 hours behind in the time zone. Anyhow, Colby T was asking number one about this PucHonda Head. Let me just read. I've got it in front of me. I have a 1983 NU50, and I was looking at a custom-cut NU50 head, but Treatland recommended the PucHonda heads. I was looking at the Sport Touring version due to better cooling. After reading a number of posts, reviews online, my concerns are, one, potentially having to trim fins on the head to clear the NU50 frame leg and rest. Well, Colby T, this was on my Urban Express, and you might be able to tell that nothing has been touched. Often, what people are referring to is with the DR, especially with the DR kit, but with other kits, I've got a DR kit on my regular Express NC50, and I had to take the Dremel to some of the fins. But on the Urban Express, it was not a problem in my case. So one question, and one question answered. That was an easy one. Number two, the head bolts not aligning with my Polini 70cc kit NU50 engine. Okay, so what they've done on this custom, it's a Puc head, or however you want to pronounce it, Puc, I don't know, right? But this cylinder head is for a Puc, a moped, and the bolt holes are a little different. So what they did on this thing was they, I don't know, maybe with a drill press or something, but they basically drilled holes so that they modified the holes basically so that you could fit this on a Honda. Now originally I had this turned 90 degrees like this, and I had some problems. I think I even took a drill to it and opened up the holes a little more, but when I turned it to its current configuration with like the narrow fins on top and the wide fins on the side, which is probably the proper configuration, I did not have a problem with that. And I did get some new bolts from the hardware store and cut them down because this head, the bolts sit further in. But I noticed, I remember I had to switch, and I've got one regular Urban Express cylinder head bolt in there, and I might have just added a washer to it. But potentially, you might have to enlarge the holes, and potentially you might have to go with different cylinder head bolts. But that's really not a big deal. Just go to the hardware store, get slightly shorter bolts than the Urban Express ones, and you can make it work. You know, like my friend Carl always says, you know, nothing is plug and play with mopeds. You know, nothing is specifically designed for your moped. Well, some things are, but very few things are. So you've got to, you know, make some adaptations. You've got to, you know, improvise, adapt, and overcome. You know, that's just not the saying of the U.S. Marines. I think it's the Marines. That's also what you got to learn in mopeds and nopeds, you know. Adapt, improvise, overcome. Make it work. Make it happen. So, and it's worth it because Treatland sells an Urban Express head that's been machined out so that it'll handle a bigger piston. But let me see if I've got one over here. I think I've got one over here somewhere. Well, I've got one on a Honda Express engine. I'm not going to take it off, but I can tell you that the Urban Express head next to this pales in comparison. It's a miniature version of this, and if you want extreme cooling power, you need a bigger head. You understand that size matters here, so we want a lot of aluminum. You know, as much as we can get. So this is good. Don't get the Urban Express head, or, you know, they also machine out a regular Express head, which I know I've got one of those handy somewhere around here, right? Right here, yeah. Here's a regular Express head. I mean, you can hardly, is that showing up on camera? Where are we? Over here? I mean, we're not even recording. Yeah, we are. We're recording. What the heck? Look at that. That's ridiculous. That's not going to do anything. That's just going to overheat your engine and seize your piston within like 10 minutes. Man, you can't deal with that. And then the Urban Express head isn't really much bigger than that. I mean, that's puny. Puny cylinder head. So yeah, it's worth it to get this head if you want cooling power. And you may not have issues. And then finally, Colby TS 3 short reach spark plugs. I was planning on using a BR8HS, potentially still being too long for the head. Did you run into any of these issues with the PucHonda head on your NU50? I was still kind of thinking about going with the custom cut NU50 head. No, don't do that. Do not do that. So, because yes, this will be better for cooling than a custom cut NU50 regular stock cylinder head. And then as far as the, see, I'm using a I've got a B10 HS plug. This is like a really cold plug. And I've got, I was looking at this earlier and I was like, really? Well, I've got one index spacer and 2 spark plug washers, and then even on top of that I've got a temperature gauge. So basically 4 washers on this thing, which I think is overkill, but I don't know, it's worked fine. And this this thing has propelled me to 52 miles an hour, so you know, I guess the spark plug's not an issue. But yeah, I don't use the BR. This is just the B10HS. I guess R is a resistor plug, so I'm not sure on that. But anyways, so I took this one off and put the stock engine on my Urban Express because I'm testing out the MLM circuit pipe, which the DR kit sits too low for that circuit pipe to fit up nice. And then while I've got it off, let's roll over to the other side here, you know, see what we can see. And you can see that I've got a fancy little intake on there. I was previously running a VM18 carburetor, but now I'm moving up in life to the VM20 carburetor, and this is an intake that will handle the VM20. And the nice thing about the VM20 is it's got bolt holes, so you can bolt the carburetor to the intake. You're not clamping it on. Because I've had my clamp on VM18 fall off a couple times while I was riding. You know, it's not a good scene at all. And then, hold on a minute, you know, hold on, let me find something. I know I've got, you know, got a little show and tell somewhere. You know, this will be worth it. This will be worth it. You know, hang on. That's some big packaging there. So I got for me VM20 carburetor. Look at that, bro. Can you see it? That is an adjustable main jet that screws in to the bottom of the float bowl on the VM20 carburetor. So you can just, you know, if you're running a little too rich, you can reach down with your left hand and dial it in, you know, lean it out a little, or maybe you're a little too lean, you can dial it up to a little more rich. You know how it is. This one goes to 11, I think. So anyhow, I'm interested in trying that out. It was a bit of an expense, but you know, I'm doing this not just for myself, but for all those people out there who gots to know. You know, I gots to know if that's gonna, you know, how's that gonna work. So anyways, with the VM20, you know, maybe, but we'll see how it all works out. Maybe, and you know, I'm running the stock reeds on this, and maybe it's time to, yeah, I'm just not a believer in those carbon fiber reeds. But you know, I was talking to a friend of mine who was in the motocross, and his son races motocross, and he was saying that, you know, as opposed to metal reeds, carbon fiber or fiberglass reeds are going to be more reactive to the throttle than metal reeds, and they'll be more in sync with the piston than metal reeds. So he seemed to think that, you know, these alternate material reeds were a good idea. I don't think it's going to make you go any faster, but it you know, everybody always says, you know, throttle response is better, and I think that's because the reeds stay more in sync with the piston. So that's my thought on that matter. And that one was for free. That one wasn't even asked of me. So I'm just throwing that out there. If you want to leave me a tip or something, you know, that's just fine. But that was completely extra and beyond, you know, what was requested. So anyhow, let me see here. Oh, I see what I did. So, yes, those, I definitely recommend the PucHonda Head, or however you want to say it. I don't even know. Everything's a tongue twister in the moped world. But we will be putting this back on. I found a brand new stock belt for my other Urban Express engine. I put that on, and so we'll give that a run. I can tell you already, I rode it around the yard a few laps, and the acceleration is just exhilarating. So I think we might set a new acceleration record. 13.2 is the current standard, current touchstone. So, I think that records are meant to be broken. So that Urban Express acceleration is exceptional already. Top speed we shall see. The smaller belt might help with that as well. So, how are we doing here? I've been rambling on quite a bit. I probably ought to just, drop it for now. But, hey, Colby, thanks for the questions. I hope it helps. In summary, no, you do not need to cut these fins at all. Should not be a problem, unless your frame is bent or something like that. And then cooling, I think, would be much better than this, than with a stock head that's been machined out. Just run, you can get the index spacers, or you can rob some washers off of other spark plugs and space out the spark plug some, in addition to running a short reach plug. And then if you run it in this orientation, you probably won't have a problem with the bolt holes. If you do, you can just widen them out with a drill bit. And I think you can get the stock cylinder bolts to work. If not, just run to the hardware store and buy some slightly shorter M6 1.0 bolts. And or I bought some and I dremeled them down. I cut off a quarter of an inch or something like that with the Dremel. I forget. So can't wait to get this engine back on the Urban Express with new carburetor and fly with the angels a little bit. So, hey, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the questions. Keep them coming. Always glad to help.